I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for Monday, April 2nd, 2018. Madam Clerk, can you take the roll? It is, for the record, it is 6:39.
Trustee Muhammad?
Here.
Trustee Stubbs? Here. Trustee House?
Here.
Trustee Denton?
Present.
Trustee Pearson?
Present.
Trustee Henyer?
Present.
Okay, all members of the board are here. We have a quorum. If you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would remain standing, I'll ask our fire chief to lead us in prayer tonight.
Not very good at this, but everybody bow their heads. God, thank you for everything you've done for us. Thank you for taking us from where we were to where we are today. Hopefully we'll have a great meeting tonight. Everybody won't be happy, but as long as the residents get a true agreement in what they want and let everybody know what they want and have everybody agree to it, and hopefully we can just get along and do everything in Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, village clerk's report is the first thing on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of the Board of Trustees for Wednesday, February 23rd, 2018.
I'd like to get a motion to approve the board meetings for February 23rd, 2018 special board meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for February 23rd special board meeting 2018.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the special board meetings of February 23rd, 2018. Roll call. Any discussion, I should say. Roll call.
Trustee Muhammad?
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs?
Aye.
Trustee House?
Aye.
Trustee Denton?
Aye.
Trustee Pearson?
Aye.
Trustee Henyard?
Aye.
Motion carries 6 ayes. Next thing on the agenda is communications.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Trustees, you have in your packet a letter that the village receives annually from the Salvation Army, among other communities as well, requesting permission for their two major campaigns in 2018, one being their Donut Days campaign on Friday and Saturday, June 1st and 2nd of this year, and then, of course, their Christmas Red Kettle campaign, Monday through Saturday, November 1st through December 24th. For the most part, the presence in the Salvation Army in the Village of Dalton is in front of businesses in the malls, but they do include in their request permission from the village to be on public streets when those businesses are located just off the public streets. So I don't believe we need a motion for this, but just to get a consensus from the board that everyone is on board with the Salvation Army coming into the village this year, should they choose to do so.
Okay, any further?
Nothing further, sir.
Next thing on the agenda is the engineer's report. He is not with us tonight, but I think he provided us a report.
I'd like to make Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made to suspend the rules. For what reason, trustee?
Have announcement.
We good with it? Okay. It's been
Have a
motioned
vote,
and
please.
seconded to suspend the rules for an announcement. We need a vote on that? Okay. Go ahead, trustee.
I have the floor. Thank you, Mayor. On March 26, 2018, the City of Chicago filed suit against the Village of Dalton, seeking damages, an injunction and attorney's fees against the village for its failure to pay the City of Chicago for water. In 2011 and 2014, an agreement was signed to make payments to catch up on payments to Chicago. This mayor signed the 2014 agreement. Chicago says that Dalton has not made all of the settlement payments and owes $2.7 million in unpaid water charges since 2014 settlement. Chicago also says that Dalton made unauthorized transfers out of the water fund totaling $8,895,493. Bottom line, Chicago says Dalton owes Chicago $6 $1,640,496.30 for unpaid water bills and $1,267,936.61 in penalties, for a grand total of $7,908,432.91 as of March 19th, 2018. And I yield to Trustee Stubbs.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to make a statement. Upon receiving the suit from Attorney Murphy, is dated back to 2011, when Mayor Riley was actually a trustee at that particular time, and he took a vote. The vote was 5 yeses and 1 pass to pay back the rearage on our water bill. In 2014, I was not sitting on this board, Madam Clerk, and this is for the record. I had no knowledge of the rearage. I had no knowledge that an agreement was made in 2014 by Mayor Riley and the City of Chicago to pay back monies owed to the Chicago Water Department and to pay also the current Water Department. At that particular time, when I took office, Trustee Hunt was he was the finance chairperson at that particular time. I was never made aware of any monies owed, any rearage owed. I was always told by the mayor's office, his administrator, the gentleman that worked for him, that he hired. I was not here when he was hired. I was not elected at that particular time, and I would like that to go on record, that I had no knowledge of that. All I was told was the water bill was being paid, and I was told that information not only by the administrator, but also by the mayor, and I would like that to be in record. Also, I have a copy of that signed off by Mayor Riley in my possession in 2011. I would like to state for the record that another order was passed and the trustees was included in that decision-making of paying back the money. This have Trustee Green motioned it, second by Trustee Jefferson. The vote was taken, 5 yeses. Trustee Green, Trustee Riley Rogers, Trustee Harris, Trustee Jefferson, Trustee Bendale, and Trustee Smith passed. So I had no knowledge of that was going on. I was always told that that bill was being paid. Thank you.
Trustee Pearson.
Mayor, may I?
Go ahead. I want to make a comment first before you go. I have no recollection of telling you, Trustee Stubbs. Matter of fact, you had very limited conversation with me in regards that I told you the bill was being paid. Go ahead, Trustee Pearson.
Mayor, may I?
Wait, let me.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Trustee Pearson.
During this time of the non-payment of these water bills, the mayor's administration repeatedly stated to the trustees that Dalton was making its settlement payments to Chicago. The mayor's administration never told the trustees that not only was Dalton not making those payments, it wasn't even making its current payments. The mayor's administration never advised the trustees that unauthorized transfers were being made out of the water fund. Several times, I asked the village administrator if we had the money to pay the corporate bills that we were about to approve, and I was always told yes. The attorney told us he was discussing settlement with Chicago, and that he had time before they filed, we had time before they filed suit. There is no settlement. The village has been sued, and now we will have more legal fees. Trustee Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Trustees. Mr. Attorney, is it the province of the mayor to recognize
Yes.
speakers?
If I could be recognized, Mayor, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, clerk. As the finance chairperson, I have tried to get the information necessary to properly review and establish our budget and deal with our financial problems. We, the trustees, will be working with our legislative counsel, Ms. Redmond, and our auditors to develop a solution. So, Mayor, we just have a few questions that if you would answer, and I'll continue. Mayor, you signed the 2014 settlement agreement. Why was it, that's not my question, please, if you don't mind. Why was it violated? Did the board ever vote on this agreement with Chicago? If so, we can't find it. Also, I was reached by an investigative body today, and they asked you concerning this matter, and you said you put it in the hands of Mr. Urban, who reports directly to you, and he's an appointment by you, and you told that investigative body that you know nothing of what Stan Urban did, and of course my response was BS, because Stan Urban reported directly to you, not the trustees.
Well, first of all,
Second.
I'm not going to sit here and let you interrogate me. I'm not sure who you think you are, but I'm not under examination by you. So I'm not going to answer any of your questions that you want to pose to me.
Okay, well then, I'll continue then, and they'll just go in the record, clerk. Mayor, the budget for 14, 15, 16, and 17 was not addressing this violation in Chicago water contract that you signed. Your administration has been transferring monies from the water account general use without advising the board or the public. Your administration, Mayor, has failed to be truthful with the residents and the board, and we are now faced with an over $2 million deficit requiring cuts and layoffs. Look at this mess you have created for this village. You gave the authority to transfer the water account monies because Stan Urban, our former village administrator, reports to you. You cannot blame Stan Urban. He worked for you. Yes, he may have signed checks, but he can't transfer millions of dollars of village funds without your knowledge, consent, and/or approval. Are you telling us he was able to transfer millions each year, 2014, 15, 16, and 17, without your knowledge or consent? Then you should resign for failure to protect the residents' monies. Mayor, you are the chief executive officer. It's your duty and responsibility to manage and protect the village funds, and if you are unable, then you should resign.
Mayor, may I be recognized, please?
Go ahead, trustee.
Mayor, under your administration, we never saw a water payment on the village warrant list as a payment for approval to the city of Chicago. Like all other village financial obligation, you and your administration kept telling us the water bill was paid, and we, as well as the residents, trusted you, and you let us down. Mayor, I have to ask this question. Mayor, why haven't you paid current water bills for Chicago? I have to ask another question. Mayor, why did you lie to the trustees about paying Chicago? Mayor, why did the $8.8 million transferred out of the water, where did the water fund money go?
I'd like to ask the question, how long did it take you to rehearse all this?
$8 million is not funny. This is not funny, Mayor. This is a serious issue.
Well, I'm going to ask the village attorney to comment on everything that you've said.
That's what happens when you don't have the answers. You refer to counsel.
Why'd you hire one? Right, the board hired a counsel. You talk about us being in a financial condition. We've already got village counsel. But
You
went
can
out
let the
and hired
attorney
another
answer
one.
for you for the $8 million.
The village has a serious problem. The responsibility is a shared responsibility. All of the records dealing with expenditure of funds, transfer of monies from the water fund to the general fund are matters which were approved by the board. These are also matters that have
Not
been...
true.
That's not true.
That
That
have
is
been-
not true.
These are also matters that have been apparent in the budget. This village has been operating at a deficit for many years and has been approving transfers of money from the water fund to the general fund. The ultimate responsibility for expenditure of village funds lies with the entire board. The mayor has no responsibility or no authority to make expenditures. It's the village board that's responsible for adopting a budget and for monitoring the finances. It is, in my view, incumbent on the board to look this problem in the eye and make a determination how to best pay your bills. You haven't been doing that for a number of years, and it is now time for this board to do that.
Mayor, may I?
Let me back up one area. I'm reluctant to discuss any further because I don't want to breach obligations of, or the limitations of executive sessions. I told the village board that the city of Chicago was going to sue us. I said I would try to negotiate a longer repayment plan. The city rejected my overtures to negotiate a repayment plan, and the Corporation Counsel said we are going to file suit. As soon as I got that word from the Corporation Counsel, I sent a memorandum to the board so advising them. So as soon as I found out that the city was not going to wait on Dalton any further, I notified the board. We are now in litigation, and we will continue to work with the Corporation Counsel and with the court to determine a way for this village to be able to pay the water bills without any further transfers of money from the water fund to the general fund.
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Go ahead, trustee.
As I have stated earlier, for the record, Trustee Stubbs wasn't sitting here in 2014 when this agreement was made. And in that agreement at that particular time that Mayor Riley Rogers signed off on, if you look at number 6, it says separate funds. The funds should have been separated in a separate account during that period of time. That money should only have went towards the water bill and the sewage. That money should not have been transferred to the general account for whatever reason. Myself, I'm speaking for me, Valerie Stubbs, was not aware of any monies being transferred from the water account to the general account to do whatever you pleased. That should have came across the board just like it did in 2011 when you agreed as a trustee, Mayor Riley, to pay back the money, and then turned around in 2014 and agreed to pay the monies back along with the current monies to the Chicago Water Department. Now, we were told, and I say we now because it was 2 of us in the administrator's office, it was 2 of us in the mayor's office downstairs, even though he states that he didn't have that conversation with us, that the water bill was being paid back. For the record, Mary Kay. Thank you.
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Hold on a minute. Is the chief executive officer, yes, I did sign the agreement. That agreement was negotiated by our village attorney. And the clerk just advised me that the board was advised of that agreement. There was a resolution that came across this board, and the board knew everything that was going on. Secondly, the board approves the budget. The board approves the expenditures. So where did you think the money was coming from when you approved those expenditures to get paid?
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Go ahead, trustee.
Two things. The attorney stated that the trustees approved transfer of funds. If you take notice to our audit that was done in the last 3 years, which are probably the best audits, and we were admonished by our auditor, but nowhere in public record will you see a vote by these trustees after 2015. The agreement that you made was in 2014, and 90% of this board was not here. I think there's only one trustee was here at that time. But we never had a public vote where we approved a transfer of funds from the water department. I want to put that on the record, and we were not here in 2014 for this agreement, so that if there was a resolution, which I'm sure there was, the trustees present were not here for that approval of the agreement of 2014 that was broken by yourself and your administration.
You keep referring to me broken by myself. This board controls the purse, not me. Everything is voted on as far as expenditures, agreements, budget, is voted on by this board.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
No, I want to
please?
have the village attorney refresh your memory.
The village board in 2016 approved resolutions determining that an amount of money that had been over the years transferred from water to general fund to the tune of over $8 million should be deemed uncollectible. A similar resolution was adopted determining that millions and millions of dollars transferred from the general fund to the Dorchester fund be deemed uncollectible. So the board adopted corporate resolutions since 2014, which indicated the board was aware of what was going on between the water fund and the general fund, and how the water fund was subsidizing the general fund because, among other things, the village board hasn't increased the property tax levy for many years, and expenses have been increasing. So the notion that the board wasn't aware, I think, will not stand up to the public record.
May I be
Can I
go ahead,
say
I'm
something
sorry.
here?
Go ahead, trustee.
It's a shame that we're in this situation, and it's a shame that we go back and forth with who's responsible. It would, committee chairs are supposed to have great oversight over their committee, and that's what I'm being told. But it's a struggle to try to work with department heads when we're told, they're told, don't give them nothing. They ain't got no business in here. Make an appointment. Don't give them no paperwork. That's very difficult. And now you want to hold us responsible for this shortage. And you know that this shortage comes when the financial person comes up to Stan Urbans and says, what do we pay? And Stan decided what should be paid. There was no chairperson here to make that decision. That was your administration. And Stan Urban was hired by you. He wasn't hired by us.
Actually, he was.
No, we don't hire department heads.
You approved the department heads. And if you recall, just to refresh your memory, you talk about there was no chair people for these committees. If you recall, when I appointed chair people, the ordinance was changed that I could not appoint them.
You couldn't appoint who?
I couldn't appoint the chair people.
Yeah, I didn't say you did.
What are you talking about? There was no
village administrator.
What are you talking about? There was no chair
I'm
people
saying
for the
the chair,
committees?
the people who, chair these committees cannot just come in here and do what they want to do or say what they want to say or try to get things done the way they want to get things done, because you remind them very vividly that they are not the mayor and they don't have the right to be here. And you tell your department heads not to give us information.
It's not true.
Oh, yes, it is.
The problem is, when the trustees come in, and this village attorney has reminded the trustees that you cannot interfere with employees' day-to-day work operations. And it's been a constant problem. Some of the employees have told me that they fear, since you've taken authority from me to hire and fire, they fear being fired by the trustees if they don't give them the information. But you come in during the day when they're doing work and you expect them to stop what they're doing and provide you with all kind of information. It's time consuming for them, and it's not fair to them.
Well, I just want to say that that's not what I hear from the employees. They're not afraid that we're going to terminate them. They're afraid you're going to terminate them.
How am I going to do
giving
that?
us information.
How am I going to do that when you change the ordinance where I can't hire or fire without consent and advice of the board? How am I going to do it?
The department heads are still under your jurisdiction, Mayor.
Department heads, that's true.
Yeah, and if you want to
but you
hire
don't- you
one
don't-
or
you don't-
terminate one,
you don't go-
it's
you don't-
consent of the board, but
You don't go into to just the department heads. Trustees have interfered with almost every employee in this administration right here. Not just in here, public works too. Police department, fire department. I've had employees from every office tell me about how they've been interrupted by trustees, and trustees demand that they want information just at that time, disturbing them, whatever they're doing with their job duties. And the village attorney had put a letter out, not to the new trustees, but previous trustees in regards to the interference that they caused with the employees.
well, Mayor, all I can say is that I personally, Robert Pearson, for the record, have never went to see any department head without calling and making an appointment.
What about other
Without
employees?
calling and saying, can you see me, or when can you see me? And I do get from different department heads, I'm tied up this week, I can see you next Tuesday. I even met with Chief Collins on Saturday. I said, whatever's good for you, he said Saturday's good for me, and I met him on Saturday. So I never came in and stopped the department head from performing their duties, or asked them to see me without an appointment. So I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay, any further? Where are we
Yes.
going?
Yes, Mayor, may I be recognized, please?
Go ahead. It's about time that we get back to our regular
Okay,
meeting.
the couple of things I want to clear up that you said, the trustees interfere with the workers and intimidation by trustees. Trustee Pearson and myself, I'll agree that when we, as committee chair people, we make appointments with department heads. We just don't bust in someone's office. We make an appointment and we go see them. I do not talk to employees, and what I've heard from department heads was an intimidation, not by ourselves, but by you after we've talked with them. But the last thing I want to state for the record, so to clear up any confusion, it was July, upon the leaving of Mr. Urban, that we found out that we were in arrearages of our water bill. You told us that he had not made payment, I believe, in the last 3 months, and this was at the beginning of July. But upon further investigation, we discovered that we were further behind in the 3 months that you told the trustees. I just want that to go on the record about the water payment and the interference with the workers, and there is no intimidation by trustees. That's not what we do. We deal with department heads, and we generally make an appointment with the department heads who are very amenable to us, and we have great meetings to get information, but we also are told that when we mention names from these microphones, there is an intimidation that comes from your office and not the trustees.
Well, I find it hard to believe, since I don't have the power to hire or fire. So anyway, can we get back to our meeting? Okay. Now that the TV cameras have left, can we get back to our meeting?
If he makes a joke, I don't.
I would like to make a motion to resume our regular scheduled board meeting.
Second.
Trustees, since no vote was taken on the original motion to suspend rules, no motion and vote is necessary to return.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is committee reports. Human Services, Trustee Muhammad.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is from Ms. Barbara Batten of the Payment Center at the Water Department. The monthly summary for the Payment Center for the month of March 2018. Total water collections was $810,563.64. Other collections were $509,570, with a grand total of collections for the month of March was $1,320,133.64. The dollar amount of water bills that are 120 or more days past due is $1,904,719.42. This amount is an increase from February 2018 by $74,068.21. And every week I make a public service announcement. I want to add on to it this week. And I made an error the last month about when you get your yellow card that you should call that number in, 708-849-4000, to call that number in, and you don't have to mail it, you don't have to go in. And one of the suggestions made at our last meeting that we should do some education to the residents to show how you can reduce your water bill, how you can avoid cutoffs, how you can avoid estimated bills, and hopefully we'll have access to the media center to make that happen with some of the workers at the the water department to make that happen very shortly. And that's the end of my human services report.
Next on the agenda is planning. Trustee Henyard.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for coming out. I have Village of Dalton housing activity count from March 1st through March 31st. We had the following: 47 property transfer tax, 76 transfer tax, 13 sale inspections, 36 as-is sales, 10 quick claims, 15 judicial deeds, 3 trust deeds, 175 rental licenses, 236 rental inspections, 20 vacant property permits, 20 tenant water deposits, 34 escrow deposits, 12 escrow release inspections, 19 escrow refunds, 13 grass invoices, 104 housing tickets. Total process was 828, and the total revenue collected was $103,823.50. And then next, just to briefly tell you, we had a housing meeting last Monday, and we talked about the following. We talked about proposal for increase on housing fees. Basically, we went up $50 on certain ones. We didn't put it on the agenda for a vote, so you will hear about it. I just want to let you guys know that we did discuss it, and it was the following: the POS sale inspection, as-is inspection. Both of those will go up by $50. Currently, we charge $200. The other one was the judicial sale deed, the tax deed, and deed in lieu. Both of those are at $150. Both of those will go up to $200. What else we got? And then we also discussed the rental license fee and the rental inspection. Currently, for the rental license fee, we're at $50. We're looking to increase that to $75. And also for the rental inspection fee, it's currently at $35 per unit. So those are the things that we talked about in the housing committee meeting. That's the end of my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Next is Trustee Stubbs.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Public Works Productivity Report from March 2018 is prepared by Superintendent Matt Stacy. Public Works has checked and repaired 58 street lights, also replaced 3 light poles. Public Works has checked and repaired 5 street signs. Public Works has repaired 11 sewers. Public Works has repaired 21 B boxes, 2 service leaks, and 2 water main breaks. Public Works has restored 2 parkways after water main breaks and B box repairs. Public Works has been out repairing potholes throughout mapped area. SWAT was out on March 19th, cleaning up debris all along the village streets. Public Works has 1 emergency water turn-off request. Public Works mechanics have serviced 10 police department vehicles, 1 fire department vehicle, and 13 public work vehicles, along with miscellaneous jobs that have come into the shop. Please call us for more information, 708 201-3280 or 3281. Business hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Please put your garbage out the night before your garbage pickup day, along with any debris you might have. As of April 1st, Homewood is now picking up yard waste and tree branches. Use brown bags, not plastic. Please cut your branches into 4-foot sections and tie and bundle them together. Thank you and have a good evening. That's all I have, Mayor.
Next thing on the agenda is Trustee Pearson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to read the fire report. I do not have a report from Chief Collins, but I will get that information out to you at the next COW meeting, as long as it's okay with the board. We did have a Police Project Connect meeting that is something that Chief Collins has come up with to let the residents come out and talk about issues, whether they're good, bad, and it's very educational. Last Thursday, it was about identity theft, and they explained a lot of things to people that were there that didn't know, and they had some ideas on how to protect your identity theft. Again, I'll get that information out next Thursday. From Chief Dyer, Fire 73, this is year to date, January 1st to March 31st, I should say. Fire 73, motor vehicle accidents 46, emergency medical services 816, hazardous conditions 43, fire service calls and false alarms 69, fire alarm detector activations 89, and incident reports in progress was 76. And for those who weren't at the meeting where we voted for the fire engine, we did vote for that fire engine, and we will be taking possession soon, I believe. And also, there was an accident with one fire engine that's sustained some bumper damage, quite a bit of bumper damage, but it has to be repaired. And Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is Finance. Trustee Mohammed.
Thank you, Mayor. As of March 31st, the Village of Dalton has received $4,013,491.12 in property tax collections from the Office of the Cook County Treasurer. This figure represents 47% of the 55% that we expect to collect for the first installment tax bills. The Finance Committee held its first meeting of the year on Tuesday, March 27th. The topics discussed were possible revenue-generating sources. Now, we'll have our next meeting, and it's tentatively scheduled for April 24th of this month. And I want to thank Ms. Redmond again, and I know I've worn out this word. I thought I saw her here earlier, but she's hiding. So there she is. Hi. And again, she does a great job in what she does, and I appreciate all that you do. I text her, I email her on weekends, Sundays. She knows I'm an early riser. Sometimes I forget it's the weekends, but I want to publicly thank you for all that you do. And I just hope that we can get the mayor's cooperation, because she's doing as much as she can with myself. And I got to give kudos also to Trustee House with his expertise that he uses over at the consortium. He helps out a lot. And also Ms. Denton, Trustee Denton, for her support. But Mayor, we would love your cooperation to help us solve this serious problem of this water bill issue and this deficit that we have facing this village. And we look forward to meeting with you at any time that you want to sit down with myself and Ms. Redmond, that we can help solve this problem. Thank you.
You know, you want to always throw my name into it, you know.
Well, I'm just asking for your help, Mayor. I'm sorry you call it throwing it in. I'm just asking for your help and your cooperation.
You said thank you, Mayor. I thought you were done. But you always want to throw my name into it. I suggested an increase in the water bills, the water rate, a long time ago, because of the increase that was going to come from the city of Chicago every year. I also suggested to get accurate water meter readings that we hired 7 water meter readers on a temporary basis so we can get accurate readings. That was turned down by the board. This board, especially you, has never asked me for any type of recommendations in regards to the budget. You put out there exactly what you wanted, and you had the votes to pass it. Now, part of the things that Ms. Redmond do, since you've applauded her so much, was the fact to give you information in regards to the budget, in regards to the expenditures that need to be approved, and you approved them. I don't see how in this case, all of a sudden, you didn't know anything about money being transferred to pay bills. Where'd you think the money came from? And you've been working with Ms. Redmond. So, as finance chairperson, you know, I don't control the budget. I don't control the expenditures. I don't control the payment of the expenditures. That's your job. And I don't see how you overlooked the fact that that money was coming from somewhere to be paid, to pay our bills. I just don't see that.
Okay, Mayor, since we're still into my report, I'd like to respond again with your inaccuracies. Again, you passed this in 2014. It has not been honored. You advised the board. You advised the board and told the board in July of the arrearages is when we discovered it. I'm not going to put Ms. Redmond's name in the middle of this because, like I say, she's trying to do the best she can as a one-woman band down there. I'm just asking you, Mayor, without you being defensive, sir, we would love your help in us trying to solve this problem. That's all we're saying.
You don't
Let's
listen to
stop the
me.
blame game.
You don't take any of my recommendations.
Let me finish, Mayor. I didn't interrupt you. Okay, as I was saying, it's not about a blame game. We're asking you now, in my finance report, if you would come and sit with us and help us to solve these problems, because you did. I'll give you credit. You came to our finance meeting, and you gave some information that wasn't accurate, but I give you credit for coming, because there's no way we're going to collect $5 million out of village stickers if a village sticker is $40.
All right.
And you got 16,000 people to pay. Do the math yourself. You're not collecting $5 million with that, even with fines. So we're asking for your help in this, Mayor.
You talk about the blame game. While the cameras are here, you're blaming me for everything.
Cameras are always here, Mayor.
Yeah. Ms. Redmond, how many times have I been in your office to discuss financial matters? We meet on a regular. And I asked you what the finance chairperson has talked to you about and where we're going and what direction. And I made several suggestions to her. And I asked, I said, you know what, why don't you bring it up, Ms. Redmond? Because if I bring it up, you know it's dead in the water. So some of those recommendations, I'm going to be quite honest with you, some of those recommendations that she talked to you about came from me. If I would have presented it to the board, I would have been voted down on it. So we've talked about the finances for a long time. And some of the decisions that I think that the Finance Committee made were not right. But I don't have a vote. I don't have a vote. But we talk about this, the posture and the sustainability of this community on a regular basis.
Again, Mayor, we invite you to that. Myself and Trustee House have sat with us. I'm just asking you to sit with us. It has nothing to do with your vote. We would love to have your input on helping to get this village in the black. That's all I'm saying, Mayor.
Thank you. Are you done with your report?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Special events, Trustee Henry.
Thank you. Currently, we're working on the council walk coming up soon. We don't know if we're going to do it in June or July yet. So please, residents, give us some feedback. And I would love to see the entire community out there this year. Last year was amazing. This year, I just want to be bigger and better. End of my report. Thank you.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is corporate bills.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to pay the corporate bills minus the extraction of legal fees of Odelson and also Murphy's firm. We have found in our investigation of too many discrepancies, such as miscellaneous and charging 10 hours of miscellaneous, so we're still doing an investigation, but I move to approve these bills minus those legal fees of those two firms.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned to approve the corporate bills minus what Trustee Muhammad stated, and seconded by Trustee Pearson. Any discussion?
Clerk, do we need to read the amounts into the record, or is it
I think that would be advisable.
Okay, for the record, I'd like to read the numbers into the record. Corporate payments of $570,686.54 with a gross payroll of $338,818.29 with Melanie Fitness at $4,352.24 with a gross payroll of $2,582.63. Total corporate payments, of course, this would be minus those two that I mentioned as extraction, $916,439.70.
Okay, I want to discuss something. It was seconded by Trustee Pearson. On the floor now is a motion to pay all the corporate bills except for our village attorney and our attorneys that service in housing and in traffic. Those services have already been provided. There was a letter submitted to this board stating that, in fact, if they did what they're getting ready to do, vote on this, not to pay these bills, pay the attorneys, they will, it would involve some legal litigation. It would involve the village being sued and these trustees being sued individually. They vote on this. Now, they don't, you know, the party that's behind this don't want to pay our village attorney and the other attorneys that service in those other areas that I told you about, but they want to hire an outside attorney for themselves, just going to cause additional expense for them to fight the lawsuit that's going to come from not paying our village attorney. You know, when you talk about, Mayor, sit down with us so we can discuss the right thing to do, make recommendations, pay bills and things like that, but you're getting ready to cause more legal litigation that's going to be costly. It's going to be costly for them to defend it, which means their legislative council will be sending bills also. Matter of fact, we got bills from their legislative council who they want to vote in and override me on it before she was even voted in to work for them. But I want you to sit down with us, Mayor, and work with us. I just don't see this. But if there's no further discussion, take the roll on this.
There is further discussion because you made a statement that's not true.
Oh, there we go.
Again, as I stated, the reason there was a discrepancy. If you get an invoice from an attorney, a dentist, plastic surgeon, and there's an item that says miscellaneous for a certain number of hours, and it's in the thousands of dollars, then that brings notice, Mayor.
So you're telling me that this is the first time that you noticed, since you've been on this board for 4 years, 3.5 years, that you noticed anything that was miscellaneous on the legal bill?
Again, I haven't been on this board.
That you proved to be paid before?
Okay, I haven't been on the board that long. It may seem like that. But Mayor, since we have these financial issues, we have to look over everything. And one of the issues that we're looking over is what I just stated. If you got a miscellaneous item for that amount, it's suspect. In any corporation, you must tell what that amount is for. You can't have that number of hours and then have miscellaneous.
Why don't you look at the hiring of your legislative counsel? When you talk about the financial condition of the village, why incur an additional cost? This village attorney has not misrepresented you or anyone on this board.
Well, you brought it up, Mayor. Again, in the last meeting, there's an order from a judge, not from these trustees. And I don't want to go back to that because that's been covered at the last meeting, where our attorney, there were some disciplinary measures. It's an order from the judge, not the trustees, and it's a 6-page order. That was the reason for that.
And it was also mentioned the fact that other attorneys had did the same thing.
Okay.
Now, whether this judge choose to admonish somebody, another judge may not. So it's not, doesn't make that, you know, those judges on the bench have such a great latitude in regards to governing and passing judgment. So one judge may say something, another judge may say a different thing.
You can defend the attorney if you like. I can state for the public record.
It's not the fact of defending the attorney. It's the fact that that's the way it is.
Man, I don't want to be disrespectful, so that's why I don't cut you off. If you would let me finish my statement. The judge was very clear in their 6-page order concerning the behavior of Mr. Murphy. Now, and if you read the 6-page order, which you've read, it is public record, his case was sent to a board for review of disciplinary action. You brought up Attorney Murphy. I'm talking about an instance concerning the other attorney that has miscellaneous, and you have hours and no description of that service.
Well, I'm talking about your attorney that billed before you even hired her. How about that? You want to talk about integrity? How did we get a bill in December from your attorney that you wanted to hire right now?
That's a rhetorical question, because you couldn't mean that, Mayor. I wish you wouldn't keep bringing it up, because you have no record of that.
So we got the bill downstairs.
No record of that, Mayor.
We got the bill
Everything
downstairs.
is downstairs. You should have that here if you're going to make that charge. Because
I'm
our
saying,
attorney is actually here. You have to be very careful for libel.
How'd you approve the attorney to work for you, and it didn't even come by the board? Why did we get a bill before she was even hired by the board?
The answer's on the record. Your answer is on the record.
All right, let's take the roll.
On the motion to approve the corporate bills as presented, minus the following payments to Rosenthal, Murphy, and Koblenz of $7,012.56, and Odelson and Stirk for $2,975. Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House.
No.
Trustee Denton.
No.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard.
No.
3-3.
No. Thank you, Trustee Dent. Okay.
So we don't have any.
Well, Mayor, can we make a motion to pay the corporate bills with everything included? Because we still have to pay bills. So I would like to make a motion that we pay the corporate bills and include the 2 attorneys that were mentioned.
Second.
It's been a motion to approve the corporate bills along with those items that wanted to be deleted by Trustee Muhammad. Any questions? Roll call.
On the motion to approve the corporate bills as presented, motion by Trustee House, second by Trustee Henyard. Trustee Muhammad.
No.
Trustee Stubbs.
No.
Trustee House.
Yes.
Trustee Denton. Trustee Pearson.
No.
Trustee Henyard.
Aye.
Yes. Ms. Pam. Next thing on the agenda is old business. It's an override of my mayoral veto for ordinance number 18-001. That's the registration of defaulted mortgage and vacant property. You have a copy of that ordinance?
I don't.
I'd like to make a motion to override Mayor Veto, approve of agreement between the Village of Dalton and property, I think I'm doing it wrong. I'm sorry. Override of mayoral veto, ordinance number 18-000-001, registration of default mortgage and vacant property.
Second.
Okay, so a motion to override my veto of the registration of defaulted mortgage and vacant property. I don't recall exactly the reason I vetoed this. The clerk is getting a copy, but there's a motion on the floor to override my veto. 001.
This is the ordinance allowing them to approve the agreement with Pro Champs.
Okay. This was an ordinance allowing the board to approve the agreement of the next override, that's item B, of the approval of the agreement between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Champions. And one of the reasons that I vetoed this was the fact that, you know, our village administrator in the past was not honest with me and or this board in regards to our delinquency and our current payments with the city of Chicago, and he now represents this company. So on one hand, you beat him up earlier, and on the other hand, you want to work with him further. You know, after he left, his contract was extended multiple months as an independent contractor, and I just don't see, on one hand, you crucify him, on the other hand, you want to work with him. So that's one of the reasons that I vetoed this resolution, this ordinance. So now it's an override, so we might as well take the vote. There's no discussion on it. There was a motion, right?
Mayor, may I say something, please?
If you want to discuss this?
I just want to make a statement. Because the company reached out to us, also sent a letter stating that Stan Irving would not be working with this village. He assured us that he would not be working with this village for this particular project. This project will also bring us in revenue for the abandoned houses. And, you know, I really don't want to go here with you today.
Then don't.
But I have to make this statement. You talk about Stan Urban, and when you go to Nats on Chicago Road, that's the karaoke club that you
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
If you turn the name around, Nats.
What does that have to?
N-A-T-S.
What does that have to do?
Stan's Urban is Stan spelled backwards.
Well, if you could
So,
spell Ford, you know the name.
I have a problem with that too.
Yeah.
You know, that
This board-
on one hand, you say that he's this. On another hand, you name your place after him. So that's all I have to say. I just had to make that statement.
10 months
that, you
before the
know-
election, okay? Just 10
Okay.
months before the election. That's all I get to say.
Okay.
10 months before the election.
God got
But at any
have the
rate,
last say so on the election, Mayor. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Thank you.
but this was the same thing that was voted down by this board 7 or 8 months before. So now to come back and I just don't understand the logic
The
behind it.
gentleman stated that Stan would not be working. We could use the revenue for these houses.
But he's making the money as a
To
consultant.
register, and he's not going to be a consultant in the village of Dalton. If you go to Calumet Park, if you go to Calumet City, and I've also talked to a trustee in Cal Park, they have raised a lot of revenue
What's a lot?
with this program. $69,000, Mayor.
$69,000?
$69,000, that being snow dollars.
And they've only been in there for a few months?
That was South Holland, 69,000.
Was that South Holland?
Yes.
Well, I stand corrected. But also, Calumet Park have received revenue too.
Yes.
So it was told to us, we have it in writing, that Stan would not be working in the village of Dalton. Thank you.
All right, well, if this does create a positive revenue for us, that's good. Then we'll be able to pay your attorney that y'all hired. Okay.
Are we still in discussion on this?
No, we're going to take a vote.
On the motion to override items, this is item A, ordinance number 18001, registration of defaulted mortgage and vacant property. And correct me if I'm wrong, trustees, it was a motion by trustee Stubbs, second by trustee Muhammad.
Nope. I didn't second. Because Pearson, I believe, second.
Trustee Pearson, did you
yes.
second that one?
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. On the motion, Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House.
No.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard.
No.
4-2. Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries, override my veto. So we don't, could we combine A and B?
No, we'd like to make on a separate, please.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda, override my veto on the approval of the agreement between registration for Champions LLC. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to override of Mayor Veto, approve of agreement between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Champions LLC. Can I get a second?
Second.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Is it discussion, Mayor?
It's been motioned and seconded to override my veto on the approval agreement between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Champions LLC. Go ahead, Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason why I wanted to talk about this, because we're kind of losing sight of what this company does. It's no cost to the village, number one. What they would do, they would create a database of all of the vacant properties, foreclosed properties, and have contact information with the banks. We would be charging the bank $400 twice a year. That's $800 per home that we would see, and Pro Champs would, of course, get $100 each time. So that means that $800 minus $200, we would accrue $600 per property, and if you multiply that at least by 400, you can do the math. $400 to the Village of Dalton at no cost, times $600. So we could realize potentially $240,000, which would help pay for grass cutting, board up service. So that's a positive revenue source for us that cost us no money to the village, but sometimes we get caught up in the politics of this, because my understanding that when this was brought before Mayor, you actually were in agreement with it, and you're absolutely right. We did vote it down in the beginning, but you know, we've had legislation come to us before that was voted down, such as when you were the proponent for a kiosk that we voted to lower their fees for their business license, or if it wasn't their business license, it was actually for the machines themselves, because we had raised the fee, I believe, to $1,000, and then we finally came back and agreed to lower it to $500. So there are times that we have had legislation come before us that we may have voted no in the past and then came back and voted yes. So that's the reason for my yes on this ordinance number 18-001, and also the approval of the agreement between Property Registration Champions, just to let everybody know that this is a positive cash flow for the Village of Dalton, and it cost us $0.
Now, you voted to have BP Capital take the properties, the vacant properties. So if they take the vacant properties, how many is going to be left to register? Because when BP takes the properties, we don't get anything for it. I know we did pay a $30,000 bill to have the liens filed against those properties that BP Capital's taking. I don't.
Can I respond to that, Mayor? Because that's not accurate. Okay.
Very inaccurate.
You're mixing apples and oranges as usual. Sir, there are 6 properties that we will have possession of, and I'm glad you brought this up, because at our next meeting, what we will have for the residents, and thank you, residents, for calling in to get information on these properties. We will have 6 properties available under the Invest in Dalton program, and for those who are viewing, we will have on the website applications, frequently asked questions, so that this confusion can go away, just like you're conflating right now with this issue of Pro Champs, which has nothing to do with the 2 programs that we're referring to. The Pro Champ simply is a registration that we're charging the banks twice a year. Some of you may ask, well, why are you charging them twice a year? Because oftentimes the information changes from one bank to another very rapidly, so we make sure that we are charging them on a biannual basis to accrue. I don't understand why we'd have an issue of accruing cash from banks of abandoned and foreclosed properties in the village of Dalton, whether it's 400 properties, 300 properties, 200 properties. We had a resident come to that microphone and say she would investigate, and she found it was true. Pro Champs is in the Southland. I think you said it was only in one state at that time, but it's in more than one municipality that they're happy and satisfied with this company. So it's a positive cash flow. It pays for the grass cutting. It pays for boarding up of properties, and now we can get a hold of these properties and know which banks have them so we can make them pay the bills that we've been paying in the past, Mayor.
Mayor, can I make a quick statement?
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Okay.
They took the vote or not?
Let's take the vote.
Okay, go ahead and take the vote.
Vote wasn't taken.
On the motion to override item A under old business, approval of agreement between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Champions LLC, Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House.
No.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard.
No.
4-2.
The motion carries on the override. Next one is another override of the hire of a legislative counsel. I vetoed this. It's on the agenda to override it. Can I get a motion to override the veto of
I would
the...
like to make a motion to override Mayor oral veto hiring of legislative counsel.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to override my veto for the hiring of their legislative counsel. Any discussion? No discussion. Roll call.
On the motion to override, Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House.
No.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard.
Present.
Okay.
4-2.
All right.
That's enough.
Okay. The next one is the override of my veto for directing the investigation and the freeze of the village attorney's fees. Can I get a motion? Is there a motion on the floor to override?
I'd like to make a motion to override of mayoral veto resolution number 18R-002, directing an investigation and freezing of the village attorney fees.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to override my veto of the freezing of the village attorney's fees along with the other attorneys. Any discussion? Roll call.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, the 18R-002 was limited to the
Kind of a
village attorney.
duplication.
But it was limited to the village attorney.
Okay. Okay, this one's just limited to the village attorney. Roll call.
Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House.
No.
Trustee Denton.
No.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard.
No.
3-3.
Okay, no.
Motion to override fails.
Okay. Next one is, we're going to scratch item B. E, I'm sorry, item E. Yeah, we're going to scratch item E. Next one's,
Question, what does that mean, scratch item E?
we're not going to vote on it.
You're not going to veto it.
Not going to veto it.
Okay.
I see you removing it from the agenda.
Okay, next is the vetoing, it's item F, ordinance number 18-002, amending section 1-8-1 of Dalton Village Code with respect to the hiring and termination of employees. And that veto is, okay, section 1-8-1 of the Dalton Village Code is hereby amended to add subsection C to provide as follows. Employee hiring. The hiring of all employees other than appointed officers and the amount of their initial salary shall be approved by the Board of Trustees prior to an offer of employment is made. The Board of Trustees shall be provided with the resumes and any additional information compelled by the village for all applicants prior to their approval. Secondly, the appeal of employee termination. Any employee other than appointed officers and employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement may appeal their termination of employment to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees shall approve or disapprove the termination after allowing the employee and mayor to submit written evidence no later than the second regular village board meeting after termination. If the Board of Trustees disapprove the termination, the employee shall be restored to the position from which he or she was removed. And this is what I'm vetoing. Because in some cases, the salaries are described, especially with union members. The board has no right to change those salaries if it's agreed upon a contract by the union. That's for one instance here. The other is, and going back to taking my authority away to hire or fire, I think that there could be some egregious acts that could take place where an employee needs to be terminated, and depending the makeup of the board and also who may have recommended that person to be hired, it could be viewed as him being reinstated, he or she being reinstated to their position. So that was an additional reason that I vetoed this. So it's on record. All the trustees have been notified, and there's no vote on this. It probably will be. I'm sorry.
That's the original.
Yeah, it probably will be voted on to override at a later date. Okay, next thing on the agenda is brought on by Trustee Stubbs. Take from the table the hiring of Water Department Director. Go ahead, Trustee Stubbs.
Mayor, I would like to put this back on the table. I have spoke with several of the trustees, and given the situation with the water department, and you suggested that we hire a water department director, so I would like to put it back on the table, and maybe you can elaborate on it.
Well, with all the problems in the water department, and this has been going on for a long time, here again is one of the recommendations that I made, and it was tabled. So now we're a couple of months back where we could have, the board, and I'm not saying this whole board, has a history of defense all the time. We have to be on the offense. We have to get in front of a lot of these problems instead of trying to react, I should say, after they happen. So I'm glad that you're seeing that we need somebody in the water department to try to straighten things out. So by putting it back on the table, where do you want to go with this?
I would like to take a vote on it this evening, if you want to talk about who you want to hire. Because we need somebody that can oversee that water department. So I'm just, we had a special board meeting, you put it on the agenda, we tabled it, we talked about it, and I'm bringing it back up. And I would like to take a vote on it this evening, if that's what you choose to do.
Is there further discussion on it, Mayor?
It's an appointment, and I'd like to talk to that person before I recommend it from the appointment.
Are we still in discussion?
Trustees, item would have to be taken from the table by a vote to take from the table.
Oh, we have to do the vote first? I thought we were in discussion.
To discuss, it would have to be taken from the table.
Okay, we have to do two votes then. Okay. It was a voted and seconded, wasn't it?
There was a motion by Trustee Stubbs to take from the table.
Okay, so a motion is seconded.
Roll call.
Roll call.
to
Oh, he
take,
wanted to discuss something.
well, it has to be voted on first, too.
Right, okay.
Trustee Muhammad?
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs?
Aye.
Trustee House?
Aye.
Trustee Denton?
Aye.
Trustee Pearson?
Aye.
Trustee Henyard?
Aye.
Okay, it's been voted on to take it off the table. Now,
Are we in discussion?
yes, go ahead.
Okay, question for you, Mayor. As I asked before, is there any type of comprehensive plan that yourself and the person you have in mind to run the water department that would help get us out of the red as far as collections are concerned, beefing up shut-offs with the Public Works Department? Could you just give us some type of input of some comprehensive plans that you talked over with the prospective department head in that department?
No,
You say no?
that's what I said.
And you want us to vote on a department head, and you had no conversation with him as far as a comprehensive plan for that department? Or her?
You never voted on it. You know, I brought it forward. You know the problems in the water department because you've been over there many times discussing it with the management there right now. And, you know, and here's going back to making a recommendation. I know if I make a written recommendation, it's going to be voted on no. You know that there's some serious problems in the water department. So rather than going any further discussion with that person that I thought I could bring on, you tabled it.
Mayor, can I please?
You know, we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward. You know, I'm going to talk with the person that...
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to take it off the table and to take a vote.
Discuss it.
Well, we're not going to vote on it tonight. I'm going to discuss with the person that I wanted to recommend, first of all, to find out if he's still interested, and secondly, to put some of the things that are, some of the problem things to him that he would have to handle.
Okay, I think the attorney and the clerk need to step in. The trustee has untabled an item for us to vote on tonight, and it's like usurping it. Attorney Murphy, could you step in?
Sure. The vote of the board, as I understand it, was to get it back in front of the board for discussion purposes,
Yes.
right? And you're discussing. But,
It was twofold, attorney.
well, let me, if I may, be allowed to finish. Thank you. The ultimate decision as to an individual to put to the position is a prerogative of the mayor in the first instance. So I think he said he doesn't have anybody to bring forward tonight, nor was it on the agenda tonight. So even if he had somebody to bring forward, it couldn't have been voted on anyway. So, but beyond that, the board is free to discuss the concept. Go ahead, go right ahead.
Yeah, well, that's different than what he told us.
Yeah, because he said he had
Yeah,
somebody.
and that was the
And
purpose.
that's why we discussed it at the cow. Well, we couldn't discuss it at the cow because
Why did you table it in the first place? Why did you table it in the first place when you knew that we need some help in the water department?
Mayor, we had a special board meeting.
Doesn't regard what meeting it was.
Excuse me, you asked me a question and now you cutting me off. Thank you. We had a special board meeting. We talked about it and we decided to table it so we could talk about it further. Now, I thought we had that right. Now, if I'm mistaken, let me know.
You exercised that right.
And you absolutely right. And I put it back on the agenda for tonight.
So you took time to discuss it after you tabled it, but now you want to bring it back on out of table mode and expect me to make a decision at your discretion.
No, sir. You brought it up. You put it on the agenda. You put it on the agenda for the special board meeting.
And you tabled it.
To discuss it. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. Okay? That
Thank
I'm
you.
not
Thank
that
you.
I'm not going to do today.
Thank you. Let's move on.
Okay? Move on.
Let's move on. New business. Item A, resolution number 18R-004, supporting a proposed Class 7A or 7B classification for certain property within the Village of Dalton namely the Dorchester Senior Center. Put this on.
Need a motion, Mayor?
Yeah, I need a motion. Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 18R-004.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to approve resolution number 18R-004, supporting proposed Class 7A or 7B classification for certain property within the Village of Dalton. Now, this was part of the agreement that the village administrator put together for the Dorchester, and my signature's on it. But he negotiated the deal, and this board approved his extension of his independent contractor relationship with the village, supposedly to continue the negotiations for this purchase agreement. So not every agreement that I sign is something that I negotiated. And this was approved by the full board. And also, just for your information, all of these ordinances that pass, whether they pass favorably or not, I sign as the mayor. So earlier when it was mentioned, though, the mayor did this agreement in 2011, the mayor did this agreement in 2014, the mayor did this agreement in 2016, whatever the case may be. All of those, once those agreements are put in place, I sign as the mayor of the village, just as all these ordinances. So is a motion on the floor?
We still in discussion, Mayor, since you did that? Attorney, could you please explain to the residents what the Class 7A and 7B classification for the Dorchester, please, what that entails?
Yes, thank you. As the audience is aware, the village is in the process of completing the sale of the Dorchester to this private entity. Once we have the final closing in June or July, the property will go back on the tax rolls. As part of the agreement and incentive to make the deal go through, the village agreed to support a request by the developer for Class 7. In essence, it's similar to the different classifications of tax benefit that the village board has taken with respect to commercial properties. Class 7, this will actually be a 7B because the purchase price is in excess of $2 million for a qualifying business that provides services. The county will reduce the assessment from a commercial classification to what amounts to very similar to a residential classification for up to 15 years.
15. And it's, when you say residential, it's about, what, 20% more than residential?
It'll cut their taxes by half at least. I mean, they'll still be paying taxes, and the taxes, given the size of the property,
Yes, sir.
will be significant.
Yes, sir.
And again, once again, because the Dorchester has been owned by the village for so many years, there's been zero property taxes, so there will be new property tax generated, adding to the tax base not only of the village but of the school districts, and actually very good for the school district because although this is a residential development, it obviously doesn't produce children.
Yeah.
So I think this is a win-win, and it's something that the board has previously approved.
Thank you, Attorney.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
On the motion to approve Resolution 18R-004, Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next thing on the agenda is the ordinance number 18-003, amending fees and charges for building permits, inspections, and licenses. This is put on by our permit department head, Ms. Phillips. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for ordinance number 18-003, amending fees and charges for building permits, inspections, and license.
Here, a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the amending of the fees and charges and ordinance number 18-003 for building permits, inspections, and licenses. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
For this, why didn't this go through Housing Committee? I don't know who put it on the agenda, but I had a housing meeting that Monday, and we could have discussed the fees and the increases so that the residents would know what exactly is being increased.
Trustee, it was discussed, to my understanding, at the Finance Committee meeting
Okay.
the next day.
Okay, still don't answer my question to why it wasn't under housing. It says building and permits, inspections, which we just discussed, and I'm not understanding why I didn't go through Housing Committee.
Who are you directing that question to, Trustee Henry?
I guess I don't know who increased the fees or who approved the increase on the fees. Who approved it? Did any of the trustees approve this? The fees for the increase? We just increased them because of what? Who approved it? Who looked it over?
These were mentioned at the Finance Committee meeting. To your point of it being more housing than finance, I can concede, and that may have been a misstep, but it was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay. Well, I would like to table it or send it to Housing Committee, if possible. If not, we vote on it. We vote on it. But I think we should overlook it.
If I can, Trustee, one of the things on this one is that if we don't put these in place by April 30th, they won't be in effect for the next fiscal year, and the notices need to be going out right away. There was a resident that wanted to make sure that we discussed all fees with the residents beforehand, so I'm in agreement and generally that we want to make sure the residents have feedback, but if we prolong it a little bit longer, we won't recognize the revenue until the next fiscal year.
All right, you said by April 30th. It is April 2nd. So we have time.
No, we only have a count meeting left.
I would go along with tabling it if we set a time frame right now, because we're still, that precedes April 30th, because
Yeah,
we
I
have
don't-
the
I
committee of
don't
the whole
mind.
and we don't
can
have a vote.
even discuss it over email like we do with anything else.
Yeah, Trustee, you got some support here. I support what you're saying. If you table this and you got to vote to table it, I would recommend that we hold a special meeting as quickly as possible, your housing meeting, committee meeting as quickly as possible, so it can come together before the end of the licensing.
I'll second the motion to table it.
I would like to make a motion to table this to Housing Committee.
Okay, and it's been seconded. Any further? Roll call.
On the motion to table, Trustee Muhammad.
Abstain.
Trustee Stubbs.
Hello, Trustee Stubbs?
Hello?
Are
I
you?
abstain also.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Present.
Trustee Henyard.
Aye.
And it's not a
Okay.
vote. Is it 3-3?
3-3.
Aye. Okay, I support the fact that it should have went through housing. Just as Trustee House said, there was a misstep there, and I think due to the fact of trying to put some things in place to increase some revenue. So, Trustee, I would suggest that you get with the Madam Clerk to kind of readily
Will do.
set a meeting for a special meeting to discuss it in your committee. Okay, next thing on the agenda is amending section, ordinance number 18-004, amending section 1-6-5 of the Dalton Village Code with respect to the recording and broadcast of meetings of the Board of Trustees. You get that ordinance? Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-004.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded by Trustee Denton to approve ordinance number 18-004, amending section 1-6-5 of the Dalton Village Code with respect to the recording and broadcast of meetings of the Board of Trustees. I don't want to read this section, the amending section. Section 1, section 1-65-5, Section 1-6-5 of the Dalton Village Code is hereby amended to add in subsection E to provide as following. Recording and broadcast of village board meetings. All village board meetings shall be recorded by the Office of Communications and Public Affairs with both audio and video, shall be broadcast on any available public access channel and posted on the village website. Said recording shall not be edited, have any portion deleted, or tampered with in any manner whatsoever, and shall be destroyed only after approval of the Board of Trustees and in compliance with the Local Public Records Act. Section 1. Any person who violates this subsection E shall be subject to a fine of $750 and imprisonment. Go to jail for up to 6 months for each offense. Any village employee or officer who violates this subsection E shall be terminated from employment with the village upon vote of the Board of Trustees. Does that include the mayor?
Mayor, you know nobody can vote you out.
Terminate the mayor too? I don't know of any. You know, we're dealing with a big, huge fire crisis here, and we got time to play with this. Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. I think this is aimed at the mayor's office.
Mayor?
If you want to discuss it.
Yes, I would like to.
Go ahead.
I reached out to your media director, and hopefully he has this available to show. I sent in some job information, and I wanted him to be able to pull that up, and he told me he would be able to do that, and hopefully he'll be able to do that as we speak. The first thing coming up with the cooperation of the Media Center, this is so important that we get the cooperation of the Media Center, and which he did in this instance.
And you've had it in the past.
Finish, Mayor.
You can. Go ahead. But just get it straight. Just get the story straight.
Okay. As I was stating, if you could, Mr. Steve, you can pull up the first one, which was the networking that we have for the National Association of Black Journalists. For those persons in the audience, they would be able to see that. And also, when Mr. Steve does his editing of this particular one, it would coincide with what I'm saying. Right now, we want to make sure the young people have the availability of not jobs, but careers. I worked at NBC for 20 years. I'm a mentor of many African-American students, white, Asian, and so forth. This is one of the important things that our site, which is VO Dalton, will be showing the residents and those outside of the village of Dalton. The one thing we have to realize is that our site goes beyond the village of Dalton, and there is a great influence that we can have on our youth. Now, not many people are watching this right now. For those of you who are grandmothers, aunts, uncles, and the like, you can let young people know about this affair that's coming up. I believe it's April 28th. Is that correct? I can't see it from here. You can, Mr. Steve, is it April 28th? All right, so that's an example of the careers that will be available to you. They won't all be on camera or behind the scenes like myself. There are other careers available. And the next one, if Mr. Steve would show, it's, I believe, no, I sent you two. There was links. You say you can bring it up, but you wouldn't be able to manipulate it.
No, I said that would be up and the other one's on the website.
Right, and I said I need them both for the demonstration of what I was doing.
Okay, they're not there.
You won't have to manipulate, just pull it up.
No.
Okay, let me explain so we don't go back and forth, because apparently there's a miscommunication. I'll put it on that. The other ones were links to, and I sent you a correction on it. One was for careers at ABC, CBS, WGN, which also owns the Tribune, and there are links available on our website, and I think Mr. Steve just confirmed that it's under the front page, under residents, then you would hit employment. Am I correct? Okay. After you hit employment, there are 3 different categories that I would implore you all to tell the young people about these availabilities. These are not jobs, these are careers where these individuals will have entry jobs starting at $65,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. All they have to do is be enrolled in a college. They don't have to major in broadcast communications like myself. The reason why I'm adding on to this, and I wish we could have had the other, but you can, for those who are viewing this, if you go on the website and hit those links, it will show you the job availabilities. And for young people, you should have no inhibition of living in Orlando, Florida, Burbank, California, because there are jobs around the country that you don't have to be in Illinois. I was fortunate upon graduating Columbia College, I went right into the Chicago market, but these careers are available to you throughout the country and some are overseas. The reason for this ordinance in relationship to this is so that we can have access to the media center to do these types of things. And the reason why this ordinance was put in place, we weren't able to do these types of things.
That's not true.
One of the things I mentioned earlier, we had the water department here. I see one employee is here now, and we were talking about educating the public concerning the water bill issues. We would like to use the media center, so publicly I'm going to state that we'll make an appointment with the media center so we can go down there with the manager of the water department, maybe one of the clerks, and even a water meter reader so we can educate the people concerning their water bill payments. These things have to be done to educate our village, and the media center has to be made available, and it has not. So hopefully with the passage of this, along with the other ordinance that was passed, we can add this to it, that the mayor, and I appreciate you not vetoing it, I really appreciate that sincerely, Mayor, that we can add this to it, to make our media center the professional media center that it is and it can continue to be. Thank you.
What you talking about now, what does that have to do with editing and any person that violates subsection C will be in prison? What is the job availability has to do with?
Okay, I'll answer that for you. You say editing, you want to deal with the editing?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. I would wish you would have let this go. We recently had a community meeting, and one of the residents was cut off. It was a, I don't know which committee meeting. A resident came to that microphone and had a criticism for the Dalton Police Department about being ticketed. She was edited out at a public address.
Was that true, Ed?
Diane Gibson.
All right, I'll say it again. You can ask him if you want, but I'm telling you, the individual, and you told, I didn't want to use her name, trustee, but all you got to do is look at it. It was I think it was a police and fire committee meeting. Is that right, Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
And when it came to public address, she had some criticism for the police department. She was edited out. That's part of the reason for this resolution. So when you say they're not edited, and I gave you the other example at the coffee with the mayor, where there was some editing done of another person that had some criticism concerning our police department. And you yourself made it a point that Chief Collins would be interviewed at the media center to clear up any confusion that that individual may have had, but not informing the resident of that edit. Those are two examples, and there are many more.
Mayor, can I be recognized?
Your question on the editing.
You know, I want to say something. You know, you made it a point that you said, you know, I trained that guy, Ed. I trained it.
You never hear me refer to him as guy. I don't use that language.
Gentlemen, you trained him. And you know, I remember when you ran the media center, how much you edited stuff. You know, you don't remember them days?
I'm glad to respond to that one.
Okay. Go ahead, Trustee House, you had something to say.
Well, this ordinance was just placed on. We hadn't had time. I would like to see if the board will consider tabling it and giving the residents time to give feedback for committee of the whole. So I would like to make a motion to table it.
Second.
A motion to table this ordinance.
Motion to table by Trustee House, second by Trustee Henyard. On the motion to table,
Point of
ordinance
information, we had a
18-004.
point of information, clerk. We had on the floor a motion to approve this ordinance, and it was seconded. Are we saying we're going to do the second motion first? How does that work?
Tabling
Yes.
ordinance always takes priority, and it's
Okay.
a non-debatable motion.
Got you.
On the motion to table, Trustee Muhammad.
No.
Trustee Stubbs.
No.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Denton. Trustee Pearson.
No.
Trustee Henyard.
Aye.
Tied.
And to answer your question, Mayor, yes, you had
Excuse me, Trustee, I'm not
Avon,
finished collect.
edited out. Mary Avon.
Trustee, I'm not
based on your
finished taking the
instructions.
roll,
Yes, sir.
please. It's actually ma'am. Okay. Mayor?
Okay.
It's 3-3.
Is it 3-3?
To the table?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
I make a motion that we move item D, E, and F into closed session, and then if there's a consensus, come out to do a public vote.
Second.
Motion by trustee Muhammad to defer items D, E, and F to executive session. That would be motion to approval of AFSCME contract,
Yes.
discipline/termination of a certain employee, and F, imminent litigation, food for less, tax dispute.
Now, after going into executive session, we possibly could have some additional business to take care of when we come back out. So it's up to the individual if they want to stay.
I'd like to amend that also to add maybe pending litigation from a former employee, if we can add that to it, not to come back into public meeting for that vote, but the other one, former employee that has a pending lawsuit. I don't want to mention her name, but I think the attorney is familiar with that.
Yeah, that's fine, and also,
Turn your mic on, sir.
you didn't. I gotcha, huh? Also, we'll talk about Chicago.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be out.
I have a motion, I don't have a second.
Do you want to do citizens address first?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, why don't we do citizens address now?
Get this vote done.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by trustee Muhammad to defer to executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Can we motion it and second it to take these three matters into executive session?
Trustee Muhammad?
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs?
Aye.
Trustee House?
Aye.
Trustee Denton? Trustee Pearson? Aye. Trustee Henry?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, citizens address.
Good evening. I just have one thing I want to comment on, the raising of the fees for the inspections and the licensing. Now, I work for Wallamark Management. We have property in Chicago. We need one license to manage all of our properties in Chicago. In the village of Dalton, we have one property, the Dorchester Townhomes, but because it's 6 buildings, I have to have a license for each building. Same management company, same property, but I have to have a license for each building as well as pay the $35 per unit for inspection. So I don't understand, and I've questioned this before, why do I have to have a license for each building?
Yeah.
And it's on the same property. So now if you increase the licensing, I'm already paying $300 as my company. So then that means it increases how much we're paying for a license, and I still cannot understand why I have to have a license for each building.
Yeah, is the license under management?
Yes, Wallamark Management.
Okay. How much is the license?
It's $50 per building, so that's an additional $300 to the inspection at $35 per building.
Right.
So if it's increased, the license fee and the unit inspection fee,
Yeah.
it's increasing my company up out of Dalton.
Right, well, maybe the committee can take a look at that.
That's my
Okay.
only concern.
Trustee Henry.
Hurts. No, I was talking.
Yeah.
Good evening, residents, board. Couple questions. Who owns the land on the northeast corner of 142nd and Cottage Grove?
Good question. Did we do the change?
Is that
That's-
Needham Park? Is it?
No, that's the,
It's the old steel factory, I think, yeah.
yeah. Intellects.
Is that the one where it's all, where it was conveyed to some, if we're talking about the same property,
That's all we were talking.
this is one that is in the name of some private entity, and there's a lot of back taxes. I think that's the one we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had an inquiry from an environmental company about the property, and they were under the impression that the village owns it, but the property is entitled to a private entity.
There was several recorded
Yeah, there's a lot of recorded stuff against it, but
against it, right?
it's drowning in back taxes.
So anyway, are we trying to attack that at all, or their plan for that? 'Cause every time I think about economic development in Dalton, I think about that spot. For some reason, I just think about that spot.
We did some research on it. There was several corporations that have filed action is recorded action on the deed. Along with the back taxes that's sold on it, there's also a environmental issue there in regards to it being a brownfield. So I think there's some pending litigation with the Park District in regards to that portion
I
too.
think that's the Needles Park property, which
Okay.
is, it's messed up. So let me respond to you again, kind of with contrast. And I think Trustee Henyard brought this up. We settled a case with the 300 West Sibley Corporation, and part of that is for us to acquire that property through what's called the Cook County no tax.
No cash bid.
No cash bid. And we're going through the redemption process now, which takes several months. Nobody's really approached us to do that. Now, we could, and I'm kind of speaking off the cuff here, so bear with me, but there's a big difference between the village getting involved to acquire a commercial piece that's clean. You know, it's a blighted area, but it's a clean piece of property that, once we get the taxes under control, we should be able to get a nice sales tax producer there. And a property that's got environmental hair on it. So there's really not much more I can say other than we looked at it preliminarily. We got this call from an environmental consultant, and the title is not in our property. So if an opportunity comes for the village to acquire this property, we'd have to do it hand in hand with a developer, because I would not want the village to be in the chain of title to
With the
property with
exposure.
serious environmental problems.
Yeah, that was my second thought about it. It probably definitely does need an EIS of some sort. But if we could, not just to spend too much time on it and resources, if we couldn't have some type of draft plan possibly for that for the future. It absolutely won't happen now, this year, a couple of years, but something, because just every time I think about economic development, I think about that corner, what we could bring. And I know the land mill is right behind it, so that obviously would have to be a discussion. But I know as far as the state concerned, there are some times they've come and done that environmental study for free, no cost at the municipality. But just having a possible plan. I'm just trying to think of solutions and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like the village attorney said, that the redemption period needs to go through, and then we need to really try to find out who in fact is entitled to the property. At that point, get some of the names off the recorded deed, and from that point on, it's a tremendous cleanup. We need to apply for a brownfield cleanup to try, of course, with doing the EPA environmental testing, to do the cleanup of that property. So we've had several interests. Trustee Thaddeus Jones met with me there with a potential developer, but everyone that I've showed it to talks about the cleanup. It's 18 acres.
Yeah.
It's 18 acres, and the cleanup would be in the millions of dollars to do the cleanup without any type of federal or state assistance.
Thank you. Is there a committee that decides which committee the proposed ordinance are sent to?
No.
So how does the committees how do the ordinance that are proposed, how do they get decided which committee they go to? The reason why I brought this up is because the inquiry that Trustee Henyard had on a certain ordinance that was in a finance committee that she assumed might go to her committee or another committee in general. Is there a system for that?
No, I think, and this is just my thought, that it was discussed in finance for the reason of generating additional revenue. And, Trustee Henyard brought up a good point to the fact that permits have been issued through housing, so she probably should have been, involved with the conversation about the additional increase in fees. And then just Trustee House mentioned that, possibly a misstep. So.
Can I add to that for you? The way it happened was when we had the finance committee meeting, I reached out to the finance manager and asked her to have all the department heads to be present to come up with any ways that we can increase in our revenue. So she was a department head, and she came to that meeting, and there was an urgency to what she asked because, as it was stated, the fees increase or are paid every May of this year, and she needs to get that approved early because she has mail-outs to do and that type of thing, so it takes time that you have to do it well before May 1st. That's how that particular instance happened for the license and permits. But there is no committee. Individuals come up with an idea, and we have our attorney and tell them the idea, and they'll create the ordinance around that particular idea, but there's no committee that the ordinances go to. An ordinance can come out of a committee, or an ordinance can come from an individual.
Okay. And I'm not into creating committees and extra work, but just to have a mechanism so something like that or in the future may not happen, again, because in government we need effective communication and but also preparation. You know, in order for an ordinance to get out of committee, well, first, if an ordinance cuts out of committee, obviously it has a favorable vote in some respect in order to get to the floor for a vote. So I'm just asking if we could think about maybe a mechanism for that. So thank you for that.
Okay, your time is up.
Okay.
Ms. Creighton.
Good evening. My first question to the mayor and the board, for resolution 18R004 for the Dorchester, under the classifying of 7A, 7B, is that you said half we will receive, the attorney, you said we will receive half of the taxes? Can you go back to that? And
Now remember, the class, just like Class A, Class 7, it's an assessment matter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that people are going to receive money back.
Okay.
It's just that their property gets a reduced assessment rate. I believe for the first 10 years is at 10% of market value as opposed to the 20s or the 30s. So the property will still be on the tax rolls, and it will still be paying property taxes, but it will be assessed. It's kind of a shorthand when I say more like a house than like a commercial. So, for example, for the school districts, that property, which you know the acreage, will go back on the tax rolls and be part of our tax base, not only for the village but for the districts.
So we're not saying that they would get a TIF.
No. This is not a TIF. It's only assessment only. Now, remember, Ms. Creighton, you've been in all of our board meetings. This is only a resolution that the village supports the assessment. It's got to go through Cook County. The Cook County Board has to approve of it. And you may have noticed from the paper, the recent media activity, the mayor was involved, that the county has now voted a lot more strings on these assessment incentives. Primarily that any work on a property like this has to pay prevailing wage, which of course is union wage. So there's going to be a lot of new challenges for properties like this, even to avail themselves of the.
Right. I'm just trying to get a clarification of it and understand.
No TIF.
And I've been to, yes, a lot of meetings, but understanding what a Class A and a Class B is, I just need a clarification. Thank you so much.
Yes,
sir.
Can actually just Google
the
Cook County Class 7, and it'll pop right up. There's a bulletin from the assessor's office.
Thank you so much. My next one would be with item G. Why is the appointment of why it says the appointment, Mayor, you were discussing that the appointment would be your appointment for the water department. Is there ordinance or some paper that I could FOIA to have it in hard copy to see why certain appointments would be of the mayor? What appointments come under your position, sir?
Department heads.
Just all department heads.
Right.
All department heads, and those department heads, if the board has to agree on them, would not it be a point of information for them to know who those individuals are? I remember we had this long discussion at the last meeting, and this is not choosing anyone's side, but my thing is that everyone should have the information to know so they can make the wisest decision from whomever. Is that a resolution, or does it have to be a resolution, or it is a resolution?
Ordinance.
It's an ordinance for that, but is there a way that every individual, every trustee knows who those individuals are before they're hired, so that I can make a wise decision on who I'm voting for? And on the item F, can I FOIA that ordinance? Sure. Is that FOIAble? Okay, great. And then, Trustee Muhammad, I'd just like to go back. At the finance meeting, you stated that, I'm going back because I'm really, really perplexed about the water bill and the debt we owe Chicago. Did you not state that 80% of the residents in the village of Dalton are paying their water bill?
That's correct.
So, I don't understand how we can transfer monies, lump sums of millions of dollars from one account to the other. You made it feel like, I've said in this audience to me feel like that the residents are not doing their part. But 80% of the residents are paying their water bill. Is that a fact? I want it in the record.
Yes, that's a fact.
So as far as raising money off of our backs, should not be an issue here.
I agree.
And I just like the young lady that was here that had a concern with our water being turned off. 80%, and I want whoever's watching, I'm not on anybody's side but the right side, because I'm tired of, I had to leave the last meeting because I was frustrated with everybody playing games with individuals' lives.
It's a purely
80% of the residents are in fact paying their water bill. Is that correct?
That's absolutely
Thank
true.
you.
Without a doubt.
Well, it says 80%. Somebody said it wasn't correct.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I reside on Dorchester, right across from Deekman School. It's an alley back there. There's so much trash back there. There's tires, there's mattresses, there's couches, and just bags and bags. People are just making it a dump. I can't even park in my alley. I can't even park in my garage.
Are you talking about on Dante behind the school?
I'm on Dorchester.
Yes.
The alley is right there behind. Deekman is here, and it's an alley right there.
Yes.
From 151st to 153rd.
It's a short alley.
It's a short alley.
Right, dead
and they
ends.
got couches.
Dead ends. We've cleaned up back there before. Matter of fact, I had the light.
That's been going on for 6 months.
Well,
I got pictures.
Okay, then we have to take a look at it again.
You know, it's ridiculous.
I had them repair the light back there because it was extremely dark. But Public Works can go back there tomorrow.
Because I had talked to someone, I guess they came down and was cutting down trees.
Yeah.
And I went back there and I talked to, when y'all do something about this alley. It's not my department.
Yeah. That's actually a street.
That's a street?
Yeah, that's Dante, and it dead ends there. So we can send Public Works back there.
It's horrible. I can't even park in my garage.
Okay.
Because you got possums and you got...
I got you.
All right. That's all I want.
They'll be there tomorrow. Matt, you got that? Okay.
Good afternoon, evening, or whatever, everybody. Good afternoon, also evening. It's something about me and these mics when I get before them, they just make me lose my train of thought, But anyway, here goes. She just elaborated on the same thing that I wanted to talk about, was the water bills. And the streets, my street, and it was another issue. Oh, the license. I own a 4-unit building. That's my residence. I live in one. So these are the fees. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm speaking right to them, though, but I'm so sorry. Here we go again. It's about the license fees for the inspection and for the license fees. And with this increase here, it's just going to be a bit much, you know, going from $50 to $75, and then then you got to pay what, $35 per unit. That's ridiculous. That's my residence. And with the water, I have 1 meter, and we're paying $5 per unit per month. That's $15 per unit, which makes it be what, $60 for on my receipt that I got, my water bill. It just says sewer maintenance. Our sewers are not maintained. Half the time when it rains, we can't even get out of the block there either way. On whatever end, you just can't get out of there unless you got a tall truck or something. And then the other one is like the streets. Mayor, you promised and told us you was going to see how close we were to the top of the list to have 156th Street East and Sunset paved. You never did get back with us on that.
Matt.
You know? So I don't know,
Matt,
but I'm going to have to call a U-Haul or somebody to get me up out of there because the expenses are getting too much for me to stay there. And I'm a senior, and I've been here since 1985. And it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. And regardless of what the other regime or the mayors did before you got in there, now you're the mayor. You're supposed to make it better. Just because they did this and didn't pay the water bills, you could have made sure that the bills were paid. You know, so that's ridiculous to take something from the water to pay something else when that's what that money is for, to pay the water bills. I've never missed paying a water bill since I've been here, and I'm quite sure I have quite a few neighbors that haven't missed paying, making a payment, and I don't feel that it's fair that you should charge us more monies per unit for sewer maintenance. We already had a sewer fee. It was about $6 a month, a quarter, and then now it was $7, and I don't know what it is now, the way they're doing the bills.
The approval of the increases go before this board.
I don't care who goes before. They shouldn't be doing it wherever it's coming from.
You say, Mayor, I don't think it's right for you to do it.
But you're over them. You're the mayor of this city, aren't you? They're all the bosses, aren't you? Over all these people.
No.
I don't understand nothing about politics. All I know that it's getting ridiculous to stay here, and my neighbors are leaving, and we have people vacancies. The water is still on. So who's paying their water bill? We are. And that's not fair. They're not, the banks, whoever owner in charge of these buildings should be made to pay the water bill. And I know it's several over. Now I've just lost 2 more neighbors on Sunset because they can't afford to live in Dalton. And most of them are old seniors like I am. Where are we going? I'm not going to no darn nursing home. I'm staying right there, and I'm not paying. I'll have a sue against somebody because it's not fair to put all this stress on neighbors and people, young people that's trying to make it. And just because we have a handful of people, you're going to put all this finances on the handful of people that still can afford to pay their bills? What are you going to do about that?
Well, all I can say is that
you're buying up some of the buildings or some of the properties, so maybe somebody else that's still working and making large salaries can buy some more.
What did you just say?
Do you have a hearing problem? Mayor, I like you. I love you. I like you. Because see, God, I talked to you a lot, and last time
I don't have a hearing problem, but I didn't hear that one.
Yep.
I've heard a little bit.
I refuse to repeat it again because I'm out of breath.
I know.
Have a good evening, and see what you guys can do about this water bill, the streets paving, and also about the fees. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you. No, we're not taking any seconds. Okay, if no one else wants to approach this board, we'd like to go into executive session. Who's winning the game? Nobody knows because Loyola's not playing. Okay, you'd like to get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, roll call on the motion to go into executive session.
Trustee Muhammad?
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs? Trustee House?
Aye.
Trustee Denton? Aye. Trustee Pearson?
Aye.
Trustee Henyer?
Aye.
2160. Michigan. Michigan's up by 5.
8:44 p.m.